welcome to your Geoscope. This will be your reading for the solar eclipse in Cancer that is happening on the 21st of June. Just to say that I have been doing astrological forecasts for members of my website, so in other words subscribers to my newsletter. So if you would like access to personalized horoscope based video forecasts for each of the 12 signs, then just go to astrologysphere.com/subscribe and you can sign up there. But anyway, let's get into your Geoscope without further ado. I've had a lovely crystal sitting, a clear quartz crystal, just clearing the cards from my last reading. Also, just to repeat that if you're interested in learning geomancy, I do have a free conversion sheet that you can download on my website. So just go to the front page of my website and you'll see the link to the page on geomancy. And I'm also going to be doing a forecast for kind of general cosmic weather forecast astrologically for the collective on my Instagram profile. So that's at Astrology Sphere if you are interested in following me on Instagram. But anyway, let's see what this particular 6-month cycle is likely to bring for you, Taurus. So the question that I've asked is kind of wisdom and insight for the next 6 months, because of course a solar eclipse usually starts a new 6-month cycle for the collective. And we will just have reached the solstice point, so quite an important time astrologically speaking for everybody. Oh goodness, that is crazy. So Taurus, you got the same card in the same position as Aries, so I hope I've shuffled these properly. So this is Jupiter in Pisces, which is its watery position, and this, okay, you know, obviously doesn't pertain to the modern astrological planetary pantheon because that's got Neptune ruling Pisces. So this is Jupiter's rulership of Pisces pre the discovery of the modern planets. So this is about expansion in the emotional sense. So it's about happiness, it's about joy, and it's about you know, hope essentially, which I think a lot of people could do with at the moment, given the last 6 months and that kind of heavy Saturn Pluto energy that we had from the lunar eclipse sort of onwards. So you are really keen on sort of finding your happiness, kind of getting your happiness back at this particular point in time. And then we've got your ruler Venus in the sign of Libra for Puella. So this is your 4th house, which has to do with home, family, kind of, you know, domestic habits, and your private life. So Puella here is about harmony, particularly in relationships, and it's also about things like culture, you know, about that sense of being civilized. So I'm just going to read you the keywords for Puella, because it might sort of spark a few ideas off in you. So it's relationships, romantic success, women's issues, harmony, beauty, physical attractiveness, pleasure, social events, and friendships. So in many ways, you know, you could be kind of deciding to redo your home, you could be remodeling, redecorating, you just want to sort of chivvy the place up, you know, particularly after being in the home so much during lockdown. It's possible that you've decided you really can't stand another minute of that wall color and you really want to kind of redecorate. So that's one way this could work. It could also be that you move in with a new crowd of people, for example, and you form new relationships in the domestic sphere, so new housemates. You could have a new housemate moving in if you flat share, for example. And you know, it's just generally about getting on better with people in your private life, at home, with family, and that kind of thing. Right, then we have Caput Draconis in the 7th house. So I have shuffled properly. Okay, so Caput Draconis is this is 7th house so we're talking about relationships here, committed relationships, partnerships with finance partners. This could also be a joint venture, so a business partner that you run a business with, so it's one other person. It can also be something like an agent, a manager, so it's somebody that you have a close one-to-one relationship with, significant and long-term. So this suggests that you are starting a new cycle of some kind, usually a karmic cycle, because the nodes do tend to emphasize karma. So Draconis is actually associated with new moons and with solar eclipses, because they tend to occur at new moons. But it does suggest that on some level, relationships are going to be changing. So new people could be coming into your life, new people that you have karmic contracts with, but it could also be, new people that are here to teach you important lessons. So as I say, that idea of flatmates or housemates, or people moving in with you, perhaps you decide to take your romantic relationship to the next level and you move in together. That's another way that this could work, and it potentially will bring you happiness. So new cycle starting when it comes to commitment and significant partnerships. And then for the 10th house, this is your house of career as well as your sense of direction in life. So it can be your sole purpose, it can be your vocation, it can be public office or some kind of position of fame or success, for example. And here we have Fortuna Major, which is the sun in Leo, and this is really, really positive. This is one of the most auspicious of the geomantic figures. So it really does suggest that your career, or you're really sort of getting a clear idea of what you want to be doing in life, and you are shining in the kind of public sphere, the public domain. So it could be at this time that you, over the next 6 months, that you become famous, that your work really takes off, that a product that you are launching, for example, kind of gains mass recognition. But on some level, you are reaping enormous benefits when it comes to career and success. So I'm just going to read you the information, the keywords for that geomantic figure. So this is great fortune, good luck, chance, power, effortless success, social mobility, winning disposition, victory, inner strength, and natural charisma. So this is, as I say, it's really kind of positive, ebullient, expansive, happy, sunny kind of energy. So it really suggests that things are kind of taking off for you in the public domain. And that, of course, may have a positive knock-on effect on your private life, because, of course, if things are going well for you in terms of career, very often you can offer your family more in terms of, security, and being able to sort of, not worry about money, or just be able to provide for your family in a way that maybe you weren't able to before. So that's something else to sort of consider here. You could also be buying art for your home. That's another way this could work, because, as I said, it is to do with beauty. So beauty in the home. So it could be that, as I say, you become successful in terms of career, and you decide to invest in some artwork for your home. So that's something else to think about. So I'm just going to pause the video quickly while I do the conversion, and I'll be back shortly with all, the rest of the cards. Hi Taurus, welcome back to your Geoscope. So as you can see, I have done all the conversions for the geomantic figures, and I have put them in their correct houses. So let's dive into this reading a little bit further. Now, the first thing we need to look at is the position of the sun and the moon at the time of the eclipse. And as we know, eclipses usually happen at new moons, so the sun and the moon are in conjunction. In this case, in the sign of Cancer, which for you is third house. So the third house is really about communication. It's about self-expression. It's also about things like ideas, so it can be learning and teaching. It could be the media, because this is communications in this sort of the wider sense. It also has to do with your immediate environment, so it can be neighbors, it can be siblings, close relatives, for example. It can also have something to do with schooling, so your local school, if you teach, for example, or your children go to your local school, but usually it refers to your education, and this will be schooling rather than university or tertiary education. That will tend to be in the ninth house. So on some level, you are starting a new 6-month cycle when it comes to all those types of issues. Politics is another one, of course, and it's interesting that we've got Fortuna Major here and in the 10th house. So it could be that you are elected to office, or you are running for office. That may have something to do with this, and that's why we've got the 11th house being emphasized. But needless to say, Fortuna Major, as we already have discovered, is really, really positive. It's really about success. It's about expansion and about shining your light, basically. So it's possible now that you have a kind of an internal shift in which you decide to sort of really open up and kind of expand to you know, what life has to offer. You perhaps see things from a different perspective. You may choose to be more vocal when it comes to your beliefs or your views on certain things. You know, Taurus is not really a sign known for being particularly loquacious unless they've got a Mercury in a chatty sign like Gemini, for example. They're not the most sort of talkative sign. So it's possible that you just decide to be a bit more communicative, and that could also be with members of your family or people that you live with, that you're not quite the strong silent type anymore. You decide to sort of make more of an effort with those that you live with, and indeed with partners. So that could be why we have this new cycle starting when it comes to committed partnerships, that you know, your partner is asking you to be a bit more vocal about your feelings, for example. But generally speaking, it does look as though, given that we've got Fortuna Major here and in your 10th house, that somehow your success in the public sphere or in your career may have something to do with changing your style of communication, or to do with an idea. Perhaps you're an inventor, you come up with some really fantastic concept as part of an advertising campaign, or you solve like a major problem. But there's this definite sense of expansion in both your 3rd and your 10th houses. So that's something that's really positive. You know, as I said, it may also be significant, this the sun's position in Leo. So it could be that during July, sort of July, August, that things could really kind of take off for you, because of course eclipses last, solar eclipses certainly last for about 6 months. So just something to bear in mind there. But I would definitely say, you know, don't be afraid to be a little bit more vocal, to be positive, to have a kind of sunny outlook, and you know, just to kind of turn yourself towards the sort of bright side of life. You know, and the reason that I say that is because we've got Khase in the sort of outcome position, which is usually about limitations. And you know, limitations can be external in the sense of, you know, lockdown, for example, you know, being one example where we are physically inhibited or prohibited from moving around a lot, or say imprisonment, or going into retreat, say at a monastery. That would be sort of external restrictions where we withdraw from the world, we withdraw from other people. But this could very well be about a need to create internal boundaries, or somehow to kind of limit or change the way that we think. So removing restrictions, or kind of working within the confines of certain restrictions within your psyche. And of course this can be positive because Saturn in Capricorn is an earth sign, so it can be quite productive. So say, for example, you decide to become more self-disciplined. That could be enormously beneficial when it comes to your career, for example. You know, if you kind of knuckle down and decide to really focus on getting something done, to publicizing something that you've invented, for example, and that could be why we've got this enormous expansion happening in your 3rd and your 10th houses. So not all bad, but certainly whatever the restriction is, there's some kind of fated element to it. And the reason that I say that is because we have the head and the tail of the dragon in your left and right witness areas. So These tell us something about the circumstances of the outcome. And, as I've already explained, these represent the North Node and the South Node. So this is new karmic cycles starting, and this is karmic cycles ending. So this is something coming in, and this is something leaving. And we've got a repeat of these two geomantic figures several times in your chart. So it's worth just pausing to see where these are. So what is ending? So let's look at the 9th house. Now this is opposite the 3rd house. So this suggests that on some level you are leaving behind certain beliefs that may be limiting in some way. You may be switching perspectives on life. It could be that your spiritual beliefs are undergoing some kind of metamorphosis or shift. You may be leaving higher education, so you may be graduating, for example, or you could be kind of deciding to move in a different direction when it comes to your cultural beliefs, because of course this can also be cultural overlays, so things that we kind of inherit, ethics and morals from our society. So it could be that you kind of have a rethink about those. The other way that this could work is, of course, relocation. So it could be that you decide to move to a foreign country, leave where you're living kind of at the moment, or it could be the other way around. You could be traveling or on exchange or studying overseas and decide to come home. So that's another way that this could work. Or you could decide to go on spiritual retreat and leave, as a way of kind of working through or purging old beliefs that no longer serve you, or habits or whatever, in order to press the reset button. And a solar eclipse is the perfect time to do that. So solar eclipses are traditionally associated with the North Node and therefore with the head of the dragon. So new beginnings for you seem to be in a number of areas. As I said, we've already got it in the 7th house, which is committed partnerships, but we also have it in the 11th house, which is also relationships, and this is friendships and group affiliation. So it can be a golf club, but it can also equally be a group of people who share the same ideology, so a political party, for example. So there's a kind of new cycle starting for you here. It can also have something to do with social media, because this does tend to be the kind of digital domain where we connect with the collective. So relationships are definitely, there are new people coming into your life, both on the kind of one-to-one level and the group level, that potentially have something to teach you, and in terms of soul lessons. The other area where we've got Caput Draconis is your 8th house. Now this is resources or emotions that we share with significant others. So you could see this as the sort of boundary between, where you kind of commune with others, and then the possessions and things that you share with a marriage partner or a financial partner, for example. So it can be physical possessions such as money, shares, that kind of thing, contracts, but it can also be things like trust, it can be intimacy, it can be secrets. So there's some new cycle starting for you here, and as I say, it does seem to be that relationships are particularly important for you during the next 6 months. So perhaps you are sort of learning to trust, and that is why you're kind of overcoming or working with limitations. You're overcoming perhaps a very suspicious nature, or being quite conventional and having to sort of shift your beliefs so that they're more in step with the time. It can also have to do with your affiliations to the group, the way that you communicate. Again, there may be a link between the 11th and the 3rd house here, as I say, through email and social media. So that's another area where there are shifts sort of going on. But evidently there's a lot here that may be beyond your control, and that may also speak to why we have Kase in the final outcome position. It could be that whatever happens from the point of view of sort of fate or destiny in terms of external circumstances may be beyond your control, and you have to just kind of roll with it. You have to sort of, if something leaves your reality, it may not be a choice, but you then have to adapt to what that brings. And we know, Taurus, that on the whole you're not really that keen on change. So this may be the overall lesson or theme for you, is learning to sort of adapt to changes. And of course, you know, as a collective, we are having to sort of go through that process. So at least you are not alone. And that may also be why we've got this emphasis on the 11th house and the 9th house, that, you know, there's a kind of collective shift going on when it comes to beliefs and, you know, the way that we live. So, you know, just kind of something to bear in mind. But you know, what I do want to emphasize though is that in terms of your career and in terms of your general outlook, that things are looking up for you. We've got, as I say, one of the most fortunate geomantic figures here for you twice. It's repeated, so that's really something to bear in mind. The only area where we've got something mildly negative is in your 6th house, which is health, but it's also to do with your everyday work environment, work colleagues, and your routine or your schedule. So something about that may be upset during this time, and it may have something to do with these changes that are happening. The other way that this can work, of course, is that you know, a colleague may become jealous or start sort of scheming or plotting behind your back, perhaps because you're successful. You suddenly kind of get the recognition or the promotion that you deserve, and this makes certain people around you jealous. Just something to bear in mind. It doesn't necessarily need to change anything that you do, but, you know, it could perhaps explain slightly irrational behavior amongst certain people that, you know, you can't really understand. So that's just something to be aware of there. But overall, as I say, I would say a pretty positive reading. Keep focused on your happiness. You know, look to the future with hope, and really just focus on aligning your thoughts and your action and your words in particular with your kind of soul purpose and where you want to be sort of headed. And I think that, you know, any restrictions or limitations that come up won't actually be then considered restrictions. You know, you'll accept them and you'll work around them, kind of thing. So yes, in general, I think quite positive. Main emphasis on the 3rd house. If you want to know more about the astrology from your perspective, I am going to be doing these video horoscopes for subscribers to my newsletter. So if you haven't already subscribed, then just go to astrologysphere.com/subscribe and sign up.